everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. I am so glad to have you with me again this week because I have a terrific slate. I have titles from Arrow Video, Vinegar Syndrome, the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels, Fun City Editions, Radiance Films, 88 Films, and more. There's a ton of titles to get through, and I'll try to do so in as timely of a manner as possible. If you want a little bit more details about most of these titles, I will be covering most of them in a written form on GeekVibesNation.com. But I just want to give you an overview of some of the most exciting titles coming to your shelves soon. And first, I want to start out with one that I was very excited about. This is from Arrow Video. This is the 4K debut of Al Pacino's Cruising from director William Friedkin, the late director William Friedkin. So this is an interesting release. I'll talk about it more in just a second. But Cruising, just for those who don't know, is a semi-controversial movie because of it's about Al Pacino going undercover to try to catch a serial killer who's targeting the queer community. So he goes undercover as a gay man, and the way the whole kind of community is depicted was in such a way that it led to them having to put a disclaimer that this movie kind of sensationalizes that community and that basically do not fear everything that you are seeing and do not create a stigma that people in the queer community are dangerous or anything like that, or depraved. But in terms of it being like how the quality of the movie, it is a very good movie. It is one of like Pacino in kind of like his prime era, like Serpico and like after The Godfather and all that stuff. So this was him really showing his talent and really kind of challenging himself in ways that like, and some actors maybe wouldn't have wanted to go to certain areas where he went with this one. But it's a really intriguing crime thriller. Despite its dated aspects, it's like a really engaging narrative. And I think overall it is very much worth your time if you're a Pacino fan. So that's the poster that's included with both sides of the reversible cover art. You also get a thick booklet here in this deluxe edition, so with essays galore and stills and all kinds of stuff in here. So this was previously released by Arrow Video on Blu-ray back in 2019, I believe. At that time, that was a bit of a controversial release outside of the movie because at that time William Friedkin was still alive, and anyone who knows anything about William Friedkin knows that he likes to tinker with his movies, often to the ire of fans, because fans mostly just want the movies they love in their original artistic form. And at that point, there was like the directors have basically through their like DGA contracts, they are allowed to just do whatever they want to like have final approval on what gets released. And in that time, it involved a lot of like manipulation. Things weren't quite as organic as they should have been. There was new color tints and stuff added to different scenes. And while it did look nice for the time, it was not quite what fans wanted. And with William Friedkin's recent passing in the last few years, it opens up companies like I've talked about at the end of last year with Kino Lorber. They released titles like Bug and Rules of Engagement and stuff and The Hunted on 4K, which Bug had been canceled because of problems with William Friedkin and getting his approval. But after he passed, as ghoulish as it sounds, it did open up the lane for like his films to be released finally, which leads to this original theatrical version of Cruising, which I think will really delight fans. This is completely different from the previous release. This was actually the Region B version of this, but this is my version I had previously on Blu-ray. So this completely different cover art, as you can see. Much different packaging. This has a nice chipboard packaging. This was just kind of like a standard slipcase. And there wasn't much to the... I just showed off the new booklet, the previous booklet. There wasn't that much to speak of in terms of, like, this just like a little, like, smaller booklet here, which, while, like, interesting for the time, they've had a lot more for this new edition. And comparing the two between this old Blu-ray and the new 4K is basically a night and day difference. You get, with the new 4K release, such an organic experience. This has all the original, or like natural film grain that you would expect from a movie of this vintage. It looks nice. No like DNR or anything like that. And it has the original just natural color grading that looks fantastic. So this is what fans have been wanting for Cruising all this time, and the 4K looks fantastic. And it's not only the transfer that looks amazing, the sound, like, you have more sound options here. So with this release, you do get the original mono, you get a stereo soundtrack, and the 5.1 soundtrack. I believe the 5.1 was the only audio track available on the previous Blu-ray, so you also get additional audio options. Also on the previous Blu-ray, you only had a couple of archival tracks, commentary tracks with William Friedkin, and a couple of archival special features with William Friedkin. Not the case here. So, like, if you look at the previous Blu-ray release, you can kind of see, like, it's a respectable but kind of small, like, chunk of material here. On the new 4K release, you have an entire second bonus disc that Arrow has said, like, on social media, this is what the version of Cruising they always wanted to release. So that means you get tons of new special features. You get deleted scenes. You get 3 commentary tracks this time. So you get the previous 2 archival and a new commentary track. Tons of interviews, visual essays, a Q&A with William Friedkin from just a few years ago, and more. Loaded to the gills with special features. Amazing packaging, amazing transfer in Dolby Vision from the 4K restoration of the original camera negative. You can't go wrong with this one. So this really is one of the premier releases from Arrow in this early part of 2025. If you're a fan of this film, I think you will be more than pleased with this. Really knocked it out of the park. So Cruising fans, Al Pacino fans, this is the release to get by far. Make sure to pick it up. Now, my next Arrow title is a 4K upgrade, but it is not nearly as night and day, but it is still fantastic all the same. This is their release of Alice, Sweet Alice. And this is basically like for those who haven't seen it, almost like an American giallo. It starts with the murder of a young girl at her, like, christening, confirmation type a religious ceremony, and all signs points to it being her sister, who kind of has like a kind of a punchy personality, I'll say. Like, you can kind of see what's going on here, and she's always causing trouble, and she's kind of like the bad child between the two children. But this whole film, you have to wonder, is it actually this young girl creating all this chaos and, like, harming people and everything, or is there something else going on? And either way, this child is a lot to handle, in my opinion, whether she is a killer or not. But it is a very interesting thriller and through line, and I think probably most notable for a lot of people would be she doesn't play the main child, but very young Brooke Shields plays a small role in this. And overall, this is just a really interesting thriller slasher, like American version of a giallo. Like I said, it's just a really twisted film. Very good. I actually had this on Blu-ray previously. I'm not digging that one out because this is not as much of a different packaging wise. You do get the first pressing gets a slip cover, and this reversible cover art. The previous release was from, I believe, from a 4K restoration. If not, it seems like it was just because it looked fantastic. So this is definitely from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. And so that original Blu-ray release was fantastic. So the upgrade to this is not night and day, but it is fantastic. And it is just a pristine looking 4K presentation for a really interesting film. So if you're a fan of this, this is the best that it has looked. You do also get the option of watching 3 different versions of this film. You do get, they all just differ slightly for different reasons. Some add a little bit more violence. Some has like a different title card, but there are 3 different versions, and there is a featurette that is added to this that kind of compares the different versions of like what adds violence and what, like the title card. The one's called like Unholy Communion, and there's a couple of different titles that this movie went by. But Alice, Sweet Alice is what this is being advertised as, and it's probably the most well-known title of the different titles that were associated with this movie. So Dolby Vision, everything looks fantastic. Great 4K restoration. You do get the original mono. Sounds terrific. The 3 versions of the movie, 2 commentary tracks, 1 on the previous release, 1 new to this release. You get some interviews, some deleted scenes and everything. So some new special features, upgraded picture, and just terrific sound. Alice, Sweet Alice, if you're a fan of this, really good release. And my final Arrow title is we're going over to Japan. We have a double feature of a certain killer and a killer's key. So these are 2 films made pretty quickly in rapid succession after the success of the first movie. Audiences really responded, and they made a very quick sequel. Both of these are quite good. They are all housed on a single disc. This was the one option for cover art here of a certain killer. If you wanted to reverse the cover art, you can see what it would be underneath here for a killer's key. And then you also get the standard Arrow booklet here. So you get some essays and all kinds of insights into here and all that good stuff. So this is about an assassin and 2 different kind of jobs that he goes on. Like the first one kind of gets complicated by a woman that's introduced while he's kind of undercover as a chef, and whenever he comes out to kill his target, things kind of get a little bit complicated. And then the others, he's back at it again, undercover, trying to pull out an assassination in the second film. Both of these are very entertaining. I quite enjoyed them. If you like kind of standard assassin tales, I think you'll have fun. They're all kind of quick, breezy, right around 90 minutes long. So these are not like overly compressed or anything like that. These are from HD transfers from Katakawa. So these are not fresh restorations. I think they was maybe the masters that were delivered by Katakawa were kind of touched up a little bit by Arrow, but these are not new masters. So these are not as like pristine as maybe we would want, but they're still very good HD presentations. Just minor like lingering specs here and there that maybe if Arrow had taken care of it from their camera negative, probably wouldn't be as noticeable. But for what these are, these vintage HD or these new HD transfers from Katakawa, they both hold up very well, just with those minor deficiencies. But overall, very good releases. You have the original Japanese audio, and you do have each has a commentary track. You get a 30-minute introduction like featurette with a expert in the genre that kind of delves into this series and all that, and you get some trailers. So not like a avalanche of special features, but for what you get, it's very valuable. So if you're a fan of Japanese cinema, which I'm talking about a lot of Japanese cinema in this episode, definitely catch this one from Arrow Video, this double feature. Good value for your dollar, and very cool release. And now we are heading into one of my favorite times of the month is whenever I get to explore the offerings from Vinegar Syndrome. And I am a little bit late for the January releases because I was attending Sundance virtually and I was totally wrapped up in that. But there was some amazing releases I'm excited to spotlight. The first of which is from the Vinegar Syndrome Labs, I believe. This is Virtuosity. This is a really cool package for a 90s film starring Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in his first like American breakthrough. This opens up like this here, and this kind of pops out with this here to reveal this slip covered release that I will show off. So here's one side here. This is just like a Russian nesting doll of cool packaging. This comes out here. You get this reversible cover art here. The other side of the cover art is just the same as this here, so I'm not going to take out the time to show that, but this is a reversible side of it. You do get 2 discs here, a 4K disc and a Blu-ray disc. Both come from the same restoration. And so I'm going to put the slipcover back on, and I'll show you the cool booklet that is also included here if you get the like deluxe packaging and stuff. If you just get the standard release, you'll just get this here, but if you want all kinds of the bells and whistles in the packaging, get this really cool like deluxe set. So this pops out here with this booklet. Get some nice essays here. So that's a pretty thick booklet for this type of movie, and get some nice essays here. Get some nice photo reproductions as well. So good stuff. So Virtuosity, for those who don't know, it's not a cinematic classic, I won't claim that, but it is quite fun. It's kind of capitalizing on the kind of burgeoning technology in the 90s. It starts out with Denzel Washington as a cop who is currently incarcerated for kind of taking justice into his own hands. He is part of an experiment to kind of test virtual like AI technology that prepares officers for dangers that they might encounter in the real world. So as a part of this simulation, the prisoners are put into this program to kind of fight potential threats. But through this process, the main bad guy in this virtual simulation, which is portrayed by Russell Crowe, he actually develops a way to transfer into the real world, and his personality is basically all the bad guys that they can think of put into one bad guy. So Russell Crowe is very animated and just very outrageous personality, and he's just like really messing things up in the real world. And of course, the only person who can potentially stop him is the person who stopped him in the virtual realm, which is Denzel Washington. So Denzel Washington versus Russell Crowe. That's basically the premise of the movie. There's all kinds of like dated special effects. This is from the director of Lawnmower Man. So just like that movie that kind of had boundary pushing effects for the time that looked dated by these today's standards, you kind of get the same thing with Virtuosity, not quite to the same extent, but there's definitely some dated effects, but it's in a cheesy way that I kind of appreciate. It's very quaint. The movie is not reinventing the wheel, but in terms of just like cat and mouse, like thriller, like fugitive, hunting it down just with a cyber twist, it's fun enough, and I enjoyed it for what it is. This release from Vinegar Syndrome is the first time I've ever seen this movie, so I can't compare it to any previous release, but I will say it is amazing. This is Vinegar Syndrome doing a 4K restoration from the original camera negative in conjunction with Paramount, but it's Vinegar Syndrome handling things, so you don't have any reason to worry about it, and because it looks fantastic. It's in Dolby Vision, looks amazing. You do get a DTS 5.1 soundtrack that's really nice and full and all that. Great bold colors in Dolby Vision, no specks of damage or anything that are lingering. Everything just looks good and sounds very good as well. You get 2 commentary tracks, you get some new interviews, you get various featurettes. If you're a fan of Virtuosity, which sure, it's not the movie with the most fans, but if you are, you will want to get this one because it is a terrific release. and just everything in this line. This is just such care taken with the packaging. I just got a couple of their older releases and from one of their recent sales that I'm really excited to get into. And I just love looking at them on my shelf, just all uniform. It's fantastic. So kudos to Vinegar Syndrome giving a deluxe release to probably a title that many people wouldn't have probably had that on their bingo card, but I love that. And speaking of, going over to the fine label of Justin LaLiberty's Baby Cinematograph, there's 2 releases that are very exciting from January, the first of which is the 4K release of Bang the Drum Slowly. So this is a really underseen baseball movie. It has Robert De Niro in kind of an earlier role. And he plays a man who, he's kind of like a lovable kind of lunk-headed type character. Like he's a good ball player, but he's just kind of not, kind of on the ball as some of his teammates, including kind of like his best friend on the team who kind of like has a side gig as an insurance salesman, who kind of like represents various people on the team. But the Robert De Niro character, he develops a terminal illness that only his friend knows about, and he kind of he keeps it from the team, but he tries to he's in the middle of a contract negotiation, and he makes it so that anything that happens to like him happens to his friend and stuff. So they're kind of like a package deal, and it kind of like leads to him not getting cut from this team whenever he knows that he doesn't have that much longer to play, and he wants to make sure that he is there for him and he's able to see him play and watch him play before he kind of deteriorates from lymphoma. It's a really interesting kind of like the one player, the main insurance guy, he's kind of wrestling with kind of his morality, where he does care about like this insurance kind of scheme a little bit and like representing people, but he is also a very good friend to the Robert De Niro character, and how that eventually kind of evolves throughout this pretty interesting baseball movie. It works very well for me. This was a really nice discovery. This is directed by John D. Hancock, who is very involved in this release. It's just a really nice discovery, and that's, I think, what's really cool about Cinematograph. They really bring a lot of titles that weren't primarily on my radar, and just like they are bringing that to physical media collectors and making sure that these titles that are really cool and like fun gems are given the spotlight to shine how they always deserve to be. And because this was never released on Blu-ray either, and this is making straight to the jump to 4K, and that's really, really cool. So this is a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. This is in Dolby Vision. This has that nice like 70s gritty, like grainy film grain that this should have. It's all retained, but without any specks of damage or anything like that. It's just a really nice, consistent transfer in Dolby Vision, like I said. So the colors are really nice and bold and just great. Mono soundtrack sounds really nice. I didn't notice any strain or anything like that. It holds up very well. You do get 2 commentary tracks, and you get some interviews, including interview with John D. Hancock, and some video essays, and then that's in addition to the written essays that I showed off here. Cinematograph, they always just really knock it out of the park, and I'm glad that they gave this one a 4K release. It's a really, really cool release. If you're a baseball fan, if you're just a fan of just like interpersonal human drama, that like poignant stuff, Bang the Drum Slowly, it is worth checking out, very much so. So my next one, also from Cinematograph, is from another noted auteur. This is Sidney Lumet's Child's Play. Now, those who have been with me ever since the Video Addict days may remember that I talked about this movie as a part of the Sidney Lumet collection from Imprint about a year ago. There was a really good collection from them. But that was a kind of an older transfer, and this one is a new one, and I'll talk about that. So since I've talked about this before, I won't delve into it as much, but it is about, it's Beau Bridges as a new teacher at a boarding school where there are kids kind of forming almost like a cult-like entity. They're just kind of up to no good. Teachers are starting to lose control. Robert Preston plays a teacher who's trying to be their friend and kind of like give them a pass, but things are getting ultimately more violent, and how that ultimately kind of manifests itself. This is a really interesting movie. It's not one of the more heralded movies from Sidney Lumet, but it's definitely one worth checking out if you haven't yet. This is a Blu-ray release. This has had a previous Blu-ray release from, I believe Olive has put this out on Blu-ray over here. I do have it, but I never got around to watching that. I believe it is the same transfer that was on that imprint release, which I did watch, which had its share of wear and tear and stuff. This is from a new 4K restoration of the original camera negative. It looks really fantastic. It's a nice upgrade from that old Blu-ray that I compared it to. And my only kind of slight disappointment, which they were explained on some of the forums that I frequent, that it is because of money that this is not a 4K release, but I wish it was a 4K release. But if you just want an upgrade in some form or another, this is a really nice upgrade from that old Olive and imprint release. And so 4K restoration on Blu-ray looks great. It sounds great. So the original audio has been remastered as well. You do get a new commentary track. It's not the same one that is found on that imprint release. But all the other special features from that imprint release have been carried over, including like an interview. There are some new special features as well, in addition to the commentary track, like some video essays, a Charlie Rose interview. There is a hour-long Sidney Lumet documentary that was kind of the cornerstone of that Sidney Lumet imprint set that has been carried over if you wanted that documentary but you didn't want to pay pretty pricey import for that Sidney Lumet set. That is now on this release, so that's a really cool score by Justin, who curated this release, that you now have that Sidney Lumet documentary as a part of this set. There's also some cool written essays that I showed off, everything. Just a really nice release for this kind of underseen Sidney Lumet joint with a very provocative cover that I quite enjoy. Cinematograph did a really nice job with Child's Play. Sticking with the Vinegar Syndrome family, but going over to the partner label side of things, we are starting with the latest IFC Films release. This is Paul Schrader's The Canyons. Now, this was previously released on Blu-ray by IFC themselves, and kind of like more of like a bare bones version. As with all partner label releases, if you want it with a slipcover, if it's not sold out yet, you can get that exclusively through Vinegar Syndrome's website and some select indie retailers like Diabolic and stuff. So this is kind of Paul Schrader's one of his 2010s films, getting a nice supplemental upgrade. I do not have the previous Blu-ray to see the AV quality, but this is like Paul Schrader collaborating with Bret Easton Ellis, who is like the mind behind the American Psycho novel. And it really has kind of that flavor, that vibe. This stars Lindsay Lohan, as you can see here, alongside some not super recognizable names. This is in her period where she was kind of pushing herself into more like adult roles, and just like I think a lot of people, like a lot of perverts out there, will know that this is one film that she got naked for and everything. But beyond that, this is kind of a dark, like LA noir crime story where it eventually evolves into a crime story, but it's just like dealing with kind of like the seedy LA Hollywood business, and like secrets behind like the production, and like steamy affairs, and just like psychosexual power dynamics, and all kinds of stuff within this kind of like framework that Paul Schrader, he navigates pretty well. But overall, the story is so like kind of skeezy without depth, and the acting outside of Lohan is really not very good, and Lohan herself isn't the best in this role. She's definitely been better, but this is just a hard movie to love, because like the pieces are there. Like I like Paul Schrader. He does make some trash, but he makes a lot of gold as well. But this is just not one of his that I would call like a undiscovered gem. It is kind of a mess in terms of like acting and like just kind of all of it conceptually. It's just kind of, it doesn't feel like it should be a Paul Schrader film. It feels very just, it's scuzzy, but not in a way like hardcore is scuzzy. It's like scuzzy in a different way, and just like it feels very amateurish, I would say, for a Paul Schrader film. But if you're a fan, the HD transfer, it looks perfectly good. Nice soundtrack, DTS 5.1. You do get a new audio commentary track for this one. It is in its unrated form, so there's nothing cut for content or anything. So all the violence, nudity, all that stuff is intact. You do get several shots of full frontal male genitalia. So the at least Paul Schrader, if he was like going like extreme with this one, he balanced the male and female nudity at least fairly well. You do get a video essay and a new Schrader interview, which is, I think, probably reason enough to buy this if you're a Paul Schrader fan, just hearing him talk about this movie, and some archival featurettes in addition to the booklet and stuff. So The Canyons, not the best movie, I will not lie to you, but if you're a fan of Schrader and you want the best edition, you can get this upgraded, and also can get it with a slipcover if you go to Vinegar Syndrome, which is the same, you can say, for a Blu-ray debut of Greg Araki's Smiley Face from Dark Star Pictures. This is one I definitely sought out because I had an affection for this in my teenage years when I discovered this. I believe this was my first Greg Araki film. But I mostly loved it because of Anna Faris. And we're going from one 2000s mainstay and Lindsay Lohan to another with Anna and Smiley Face. So this is very different from most Greg Araki films I've seen since then. This is just Anna Faris playing a total kind of burnout, like, loser who is like, she is a person who really she is smart, but she is just at a point in her life, like, she reveals moments that she's very smart, but she's at a point in her life where she's just getting high all the time. She ends up getting way too high when she eats some of her roommates' cupcakes that are laced with weed, and she just loses her mind, doesn't pay the like utility bills. She gets she has to replace the cupcakes because they were intended for a convention. So it's like an odyssey of her trying to accomplish all these tasks of paying people back, getting people like made solid, and all this stuff while being super baked and just really just kind of out of her mind high. And if you love stoner humor, you will love this. I have lost a little bit of that kind of mindset since I was a teenager. I was never a stoner, but I enjoyed stoner humor more as a teenager. I still found this, for the most part, funny, and Anna Faris is completely committed. It's interesting to see John Krasinski in a role that's like very different from where he's at now with like his Quiet Place and Jack Reacher stuff, or Jack Ryan stuff. And he's kind of more of like a kind of a dweeb pre-Office era John Krasinski. But Anna's fantastic in this. There are a lot of funny things. It's just very stoner humor driven. So if you have a low tolerance for that, just this is not the movie for you. But I still quite enjoyed revisiting this one for the first time in quite a while. Very glad to own it on Blu-ray. Looks very nice. Great HD transfer. Looks really good. Only a audio commentary track in forms of special features on the disc. You got the essays that I showed you. But if you've been waiting for this to hit Blu-ray, Smiley Face, it does look very nice. And it's a worthy addition to any collection who loves Anna Faris or Greg Araki. Heading over to Film Movement, we have a recent, a movie that came out in recent years. We have The Sales Girl, which looks very provocative, and there are moments of like, this is not false advertising, that she does wear this at one point in the movie, but it is much more kind of a poignant coming of age story than you might expect. It starts with a girl slipping on a banana peel and breaking her foot, and she is unable to work at the sex shop that she works at, like just selling like adult items and stuff. So she gets a girl that she goes to school with, who's kind of just like a quiet, unassuming girl. She asks her to cover for her because she is the only person that she knows who would probably not out her for working at this shop. So it's kind of like a fish out of water tale of this girl starting to work at this sex shop for this other girl, and her slowly coming into her own, learning about like coming out of her shell, not just with her own sexuality, but just like in her general life and demeanor. She starts to really take a interest in her own like appearance and how she like projects herself to the world, and she just gains more confidence through working in this and building a relationship with the woman who is her boss, and just really getting some different perspectives outside of the one at her home where her parents are always arguing and stuff. I really like this quite a bit. This is a Mongolian film, and it is really, it just really hits that sweet spot of what I look for in a movie. It's emotional, it's empathetic, it's insightful. It just hits all the sweet spots for me. And so if you're like that type of movie, if you follow me and you generally know my sensibilities and we kind of align, definitely check out The Sales Girl. There is very brief flashes of nudity, but it's not hardcore by any sense. There's like some like a lot of it is just like covered up and stuff. There's just like one shot of just like more like outright nudity. But if you're just wondering how graphic it gets, it doesn't get graphic at all. But I really like this one. The Blu-ray, it is a really good Blu-ray. I do want to add a caveat that I know I experienced and I've seen others experience. If you have a Panasonic, it seems like you might have issues with playing this around the hour and 15-minute mark. The subtitles start to go a little bit crazy. They kind of flash off and on very quickly, making it pretty much unreadable. I did watch it in my Panasonic until that point. I had heard about this issue to see if it would happen to me. It did happen to me. I switched over to a region-free Blu-ray player that I have, I believe from Sony, and it worked perfectly in there in terms of the subtitles. From what I've seen on forums I read, this does not seem like it's going to be corrected in any way, because there's nothing that Film Movement or the people at Vinegar Syndrome can find is actually wrong with what is, like, it's just a issue with the specific models of players, and they can't seem to find what they would correct in terms of the subtitle file on the disc. So don't expect a replacement program, just putting that out there. So if you only have a Panasonic player, you might want to be wary about buying this disc. But if you do have an alternative player that you can play this on, or Panasonic is not your main player, so far it seems like people are not having an issue with this disc. But it is also kind of a smaller release, so I don't have a lot of, it's just anecdotal evidence that I can find, which isn't very much, just a couple of people on message boards. But I can say that I was able to watch the whole thing through a non-Panasonic player, so I will put that out there. This is a newer movie. The HD transfer looks great. The audio sounds good. I don't speak Mongolian, but it sounds good. And I talked about the subtitle issue. In terms of special features, there is a making of and nothing else, but you do get at least one supplemental feature. But it is very much worth checking out if it sounds interesting to you at all. A couple more from the partner labels. The next one is from ETR Media, and this is a Swedish film called Videoman. This is a 2010s movie, I believe like 2017 or 18 this was, 2018. ETR Media seems to license a lot of documentaries, so I'm always interested to see what narrative features they check out. And this one, this was probably my best experience with a narrative feature from ETR Media in a while. It's about a man who runs kind of a VHS kind of underground shop, and he's just obsessed with VHS culture and just all this kind of stuff. And he comes across a very rare VHS one day, and he sets up he gets a call from a very wealthy collector who wants to buy kind of this whole series that he has a complete collection of. But then he seemingly gets the tape stolen, and it kind of like devolves from there. There's also a side storyline with a woman that he got the tape from. You get to go into the ins and outs of her life. She's an alcoholic, and she's kind of trying to reconnect with her daughter. And just kind of get through life, and they kind of meet and start to have a little bit of a relationship themselves. And it's just really interesting to see kind of these kind of broken people in different ways that going through different hardships in life, how they kind of weave in and out each other's lives, and how there's a little bit of like, this movie apes a little bit kind of the movies that he loves. Like, he loves giallo movies. He kind of he like gets together with friends and watches giallo movies. And this at times feels like he's living a giallo movie. And that more him kind of manufacturing that kind of idea in his head and it feeling like that? Or is there someone actually out to get him? And that's kind of what the movie kind of wrestles with a little bit. Very interesting. I liked it quite a bit. If you want like an outright like thriller horror movie, I wouldn't say give this one a spin. Like, this, don't hang your hat on that. But in terms of like an interesting kind of like psychologically like thrilling movie, Videoman has like that and a little bit of heart as well. I think it's quite good. The HD transfer looks very nice. The sound is good as well. So no complaints. You do get some new interviews for this. You do get some deleted scenes. You get some short films. So nice selection of special features for this one. So it's a very interesting discovery from ETR Media, Videoman. My next title is from Magnolia Home Entertainment as a partner label. This is The Last Circus, and this is from director Alex de la Iglesia. This is the second film to come from the Magnolia partnership after Murder Party. And I mentioned Murder Party specifically for a reason I'll talk about in just a second, but I'll show off the packaging here. You can see that there is some reversible cover art. Just a reminder, if you do want a slip cover, get that through Vinegar Syndrome or a participating indie retailer. I've seen a few Alex de la Iglesia films in my time. I've reviewed Perdita Durango and Day of the Beast for GeekVibesNation.com. This is the one that's a little bit after that. That was more in the earlier points of his career. This is a little bit later. This was 2010. And I had a really specific idea of what this movie would be based on this cover art. I thought it would be like kind of a killer clown movie. It is not exactly that. It's actually a period piece. It starts off in a flashback where a military goes into a circus and commands them to like fight alongside them to the rebels that are uprising. And it all leads to kind of like this young kid getting traumatized by his dad's actions in this kind of feat. And it kind of flashes forward to this, his dad is a clown. It flashes forward many years in the future, decades in the future. He himself has become a clown. He is a sad clown, and he is he's joining a new circus. And like, he gets involved with he kind of falls in love at first sight with this woman who is involved with his partner, who is also a clown. He's a very violent man who is like very abusive to this woman, and just kind of how this kind of blossoms and like evolves over this kind of like crazy circus, and like how it kind of weaves into like the history and political histories and all kinds of stuff, and like generational trauma, all these kinds of like themes within this kind of like weird and wild circus movie, which there are clowns that kill, but I would not call this a killer clown movie. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, as you would expect from De La Iglesia. But it is a very interesting movie. It's not my favorite from him so far, but in terms of like him continuing to put out movies, like he's really held a pretty high level of quality, and I did like this quite a bit. In terms of this Blu-ray release, the reason I mentioned Murder Party, that release was derived from kind of like an HD video cam source, upgraded, that looked very nice. They've done the same with their second release. So this is a new restoration of the HD cam source. So they have kind of up-resed a video source that looks really good. I would have never guessed that this was like up-resed in this way. It looks very nice and like textured, and it looks natural. I did not notice anything amiss. It's just like a really solid looking transfer from Magnolia. So for any films they have in their catalog that they're going to do this to, I kind of have confidence that they'll do the right thing and treat it with respect, because this looks very nice. The original language sounds great. You do get a commentary track, video essay, making of, and some various featurettes. So there's some really nice insights into the special features, and the movie itself is pretty good. So if you're a fan of this director, or just want a kind of weird and wild circus tale, The Last Circus from Magnolia is worth checking out. My final partner label title is from Film Movement Classics, and that is the New Zealand film Once Were Warriors. This is kind of a very important film from New Zealanders. This was released in the 90s, and this was a huge box office success for them. They, as I say in this commentary track, this was a bigger hit than Jurassic Park in New Zealand. They really came out for this movie to show support, which is really wild considering like how heavy this film is. It deals a lot with like toxic masculinity and domestic violence, and just kind of like how the men in this society, like how like colonialism has impacted their culture, and how like it has led them to like drinking and violence against their families and all kinds of stuff within this. This is very tough to watch in points, like just a lot of, if you are very sensitive to like seeing domestic violence and like a woman getting beaten very badly, it might be a tough to watch to get through. And there's also sexual assault and everything, so just be very clear what you're getting into with this one. Is a tough watch, but it is very impactful. It's a very, very good movie. It's just like it will stick with you probably for a little bit. In terms of this Blu-ray release, I wanted to come in here and say this is the exact same Blu-ray release that came out in 2016, which I do not own, so it is hard for me to make a direct comparison. By all accounts from Film Movement Classics' usual MO, they usually re-release the exact same disc. What I have gathered from researching is there is a new commentary track for this one that was not on the previous release. Is it a brand new commentary track or somewhere from around the world? I do not know. It has Alexander Heller Nicolas and Josh Nelson, two Australian film critics who are very insightful. They've been on a lot of things that I've listened to. But I looked everywhere and I could not find... I've seen specific mention in other reviews that there was no commentary track on the previous release. So this must be a new disc. So there is something new to this. I'm just not sure all the particulars of this, but I will say, from what I've listened to of the commentary track, it is very insightful. The transfer looks very good. I would be very shocked if it's any different from the original release, but by all accounts, this is a new disc, so I don't know for sure, but it does look good for what it is. Sounds really good, DTS 5.1. And in terms of special features, other than the commentary track, it has the previous behind the scenes featurette, which was on the previous release, as from what I can tell. And otherwise there's just a trailer, but there is a new commentary track for this one. So Once Were Warriors, worth checking out if you're a fan of, or if you think you can handle all the thematic heaviness of this movie. Staying a little bit international, but keeping things a little bit more tonally lighter, we have the action film from Ketchup Entertainment, Weekend in Taipei. So this is a English speaking film. It's set in Taipei. It's about a man who's an undercover cop having to go undercover in Taipei. He meets up with a woman that he used to have a relationship with, that he kind of left kind of unexpectedly, and he goes there and finds out that he has a son there, and she is also dating one of the most successful businessman in the country, who is also very corrupt, and he is actually there to investigate him. It's just like this all family drama stuff going on. There's like international like kind of like malfeasance going on, like this undercover cop stuff. There's tons of car chases, big action sequences. It's not the most nuanced movie by any stretch of the imagination. This does have Sung Kang from the Fast and the Furious franchise. He's very much in his element here of just like big action sequences and stuff. Luke Evans is a pretty intriguing lead. This woman right here, I do not know her name, but she is a badass, and I really like anytime she's driving a car. She is a very cool character. Not the best movie, like it doesn't have like the best like script or anything like that, but in terms of just kind of like a mindless action movie, I got enough out of this to like not regret watching it. It's just one that I would not, it's just like, for someone who wants like a mindless action film, this is what you're gonna want to like go to. It's not the best version of it, but it's perfectly serviceable if you're just trying to scratch that itch. In terms of a Blu-ray, brand new movie, debuted at the end of last year. HD transfer looks great. Where it kind of comes up a little bit short, there's not lossless sound. There's lossy Dolby Digital 5.1 sound, not a lossless track. That's a little bit disappointing. Other than that, it doesn't sound bad, but it should just, like, we are in 2025. Everything should just have a lossless track. What are we doing here? But otherwise, it sounds decent. No real special features besides a trailer. But Weekend in Taipei, worth checking out if you just want a mindless action good time. Heading over to a couple of television shows. We're starting with a 5th season release. That's the name of the company. This is Truth Be Told, the complete series. It's actually only 3 seasons. So we got Octavia Spencer here, starring as our lead. She plays a podcaster who she's like one of those true crime podcasters who, this is like if a true crime podcaster made a difference in the real world, which some of them do, but it's more rare than it is not. But this is kind of like a dramatized version of that. In the first season, she is like dealing with trying to correct a potential mistake that she made in the past of maybe framing the Aaron Paul character as someone who committed a crime that maybe he did not do. We have her following up with a Kate Hudson storyline involving a murder and whether or not she potentially did it. And then we have Gabrielle Union in the 3rd season that involves like a case of like missing girls and stuff and her trying to help track them down. The reason to watch this is for Octavia Spencer. She has a really nice ensemble around her. We have Mekhi Phifer in here. This is an Apple TV Plus series. So the reason I really appreciate this release is that 5th season, I talked about them for the first time about a month or so ago whenever they released the 1st season of Severance. They are not a company that has been releasing physical media for very long, but I do love that we are getting these streaming series on physical media in one form or another. There are no special features on this disc, but the HD transfer looks fantastic. DTS 5.1 sound, so we do have lossless sound, thank the Lord. But if you just want all 3 seasons, and I believe there are 28 episodes on these, like 8 disc. They look good, they sound good. You don't have to subscribe to Apple TV Plus to watch them. You can have them on your shelf anytime you want to watch them. It is a very entertaining show. I'd watched the first couple of seasons before. I'd never seen the 3rd season. I watched that. It holds up. It got canceled after this, so this is all there will be. But it's perfectly entertaining for the type of like kind of like lightly engaging streaming series it is. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to own it. I love all the performers in here, and yeah, it's just I'm glad to have it in my collection. I'm glad to have any streaming series on physical media. So check out Truth Be Told on physical media if you haven't yet. Definitely a good binge watch. Heading over to a Universal title. This is another complete series, one of which I've talked. The 1st season I've talked about on here before. This is the Quantum Leap, the complete series. This is the most recent kind of like reboot kind of the original Quantum Leap series with Scott Bakula. This only lasted 2 seasons before getting the axe. I covered the first season on Blu-ray, and now we have the second season being released on Blu-ray separately or as a part of this complete series set. This is a series that it acknowledges the original series, but it never really engages with it in a big way. It kind of just does its own thing. You have our main character thrust back into the past, and just like there's a procedural element to it, but there's also kind of like a more narrativized serial like there's like a case of the week and more of a serialized element to this one than the original show. He has a really interesting, like, good support system back in like the current time, and it mostly embraces its premise. It's pretty fun. I don't think it's as fun as the original Scott Bakula version that has like a really cool like case of the week format. Like that really kind of like goes some interesting places over its numerous seasons. But for what this was, what I said in my original review and how I feel about this now is I never asked for this. I never would have asked for this, but since they decided to give it to us, I had a fun enough time to recommend it. It doesn't completely ruin the legacy of the original series, but it's not replacing it by any means. So it's like light sci-fi fun, perfectly harmless. If you if you like the series, this is a nice way to own it. No special features, but you do get both seasons, all 31 episodes, in one convenient package here, and no stacked disc, which I always appreciate. Heading over to a release from Anchor Bay and NBD Entertainment, we have a documentary, Dinner with Leatherface. This is about the man who played the original Leatherface, Gunnar Hansen, and this is basically just like a love fest for him, and like how he was very different from the character he portrayed, and just like how he's like a gentle giant, and how good he was to fans, how good he was to burgeoning filmmakers. And this is just like I said, it's a love fest. Gunnar sadly passed away, I believe in like 2015 or so. This was made shortly after that, but if you just want, it's a bunch of talking heads of people sharing memories about Gunnar mixed in with some of his own interviews, like archival interviews, because a little bit more insight to him just through various different ways, and just learning everything about him. You have people like Bruce Campbell and others that have worked with him, like other of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre family, like just sharing really heartfelt memories of Gunnar. And but it does what it's supposed to do. It does what it's advertising. You get a good recollection of like who this man was by his friends, and it works. So if that interests you, check it out. You do get the Blu-ray transfer. Looks really good. This is unfortunately another title with only lossy audio. I wish there was lossless audio, but for a documentary, I'm a little bit more forgiving, but just beware, it's lossy audio. You do get a couple of special features, including some extended interviews and a commentary track. So, especially if you're a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan and you want to know a little bit more about the man who brought Leatherface to life, Dinner with Leatherface is definitely worth a spin. Going over to our friends at Fun City Editions, we have the first of 2 new ones from them. We have a very young Sam Elliott in Lifeguard. Not very young, but younger than he definitely is now. You can see, look at him there. Wow, what a man. Still got his mustache, trademark mustache. So this is what it seems like. This is Sam Elliott playing a lifeguard, and just like kind of like he's teaching a new colleague who just came on as a lifeguard, like the ropes. He's also kind of having a little bit of kind of like an existential crisis. Crisis is a little bit tough for what he's saying, but he's just like trying to figure out where he wants to go with his life, whether or not he should be doing more than being a lifeguard. And like whether he seems content being a lifeguard, but everyone else seems to think that he should be doing more, and he just kind of wrestles with that a little bit. So it has a little bit more depth than maybe this would like lead you to believe, but it is really a really good performance from Sam Elliott. Some really good ensemble performances as well. This is just like a really good discovery that I would have never seen otherwise. This is from 1976, but Fun City Editions are always killing it with bringing these like hidden gems into my orbit. In terms of the Blu-ray release, this is from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. You do get a commentary track in terms of a special feature, and I showed off the booklet as well. So Lifeguard, definitely worth checking out from Fun City Editions. Also from them, you get the Richard Benjamin Racing with the Moon. This is a movie starring Sean Penn. You got Nicolas Cage. You got what's her name? Elizabeth McGovern from Ordinary People. But yeah, this is a great kind of like old-fashioned tale. This is kind of a nostalgic look back at men right before they were about to like go off to war. Like about some students who are about to join the Marines to go serve their country, and just like kind of living their life, like finding love, like making impulsive decisions, just kind of like learning life lessons right before they are about to become men in the military. And Sean Penn, he does a really nice job here. I do love Elizabeth McGovern in this role. Like kind of their dynamic and how he kind of has some false ideas about who she is, but like how their relationship evolves and they kind of start to know each other, and kind of like the trouble caused by the Nicolas Cage character, who's a little bit of a wild man, and how that kind of like disrupts a little bit of Sean Penn's growth at points. And this is really just a really thoughtful film. Richard Benjamin, he's always been an actor I really love, but every time I see his movies as well, he does a really nice job with those. So definitely recommend this one as a movie. And this also comes from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. It looks great. Fun City does a really nice job. They have 2 commentary tracks. One is an archival track. One is a new commentary track. You also have a archival making of featurette as well. So Racing with the Moon is a nice discovery. Heading back to Japan over at Eureka, we have Legend of the 8 Samurai. So this is a tale about a clan that is wiped away by a curse, except for one member, Boyd's, getting taken out, and in order to potentially lift the curse that is on her family and like be able to survive, she stumbles across these 2 kind of ancient kind of figures. They were part of like these 8 larger, like 8 like council pretty much that can help her potentially lift this curse. And they kind of go on like a journey to kind of lift this curse and find all the people that she needs to find in order to accomplish her task. This is a pretty solid movie. It's very cheesy and like unlike a lot of like Japanese movies like this. There's like some very dated music, like for the time period it was released. I believe this is like in the 70s, if I'm not, or 83. There's some very 80s music in here at points that really threw me off of just like, this is set so far in the past, but you're having like these 80s tunes in here. It's a very like jarring experience, but it's a wild movie and it's definitely worth checking out. And there's some good like action sequences, really great production design. I just really solid movie from Kenji Fukusaka. And from Eureka, you have a 4K restoration. Looks great. It has a Japanese, the original Japanese track and an English dub. You do get a commentary track. You do get some interviews. You get a visual essay. So really nice array of special features and a nice transfer. Eureka always does a top tier job, so no complaints here. For Legend of the Eight Samurai, make sure to check it out, from Kinji Fukusaka. I mentioned him specifically because we're going over to Radiance, but yet we're still sticking with Kinji Fukusaka. Everyone's wanting to release his stuff. This is Hokuriku Proxy War. So I will take off this OBI strip so we can get a little bit better look at it. So this is closer to like your standard Yakuza tale. This is about a kind of a outsider, like hothead in a clan who is not wanting to accept the fact that his leader of his clan is wanting to like broker a deal with some outside people who are trying to like make a move on their territory, and how it all kind of erupts in violence. This is a very there's some very tense sequences in here, including like men being buried up to their heads in the snow, and like cars driving perilously close by their heads, like that kind of violence. It's very intense, but it's a very good movie. It's very gripping, and I liked it quite a bit. Fukusaka is someone who has been getting more and more play for me over the past couple of years, because all these boutique labels keep releasing his stuff. And I'm never disappointed with his work. And it's just, for Hokuriku Proxy War, is the same case. I quite enjoyed it. And this release from Radiance Films is top notch. You do get a 4K restoration, looks fantastic, no blemishes linger, it just looks very nice. You get new interviews, couple new interviews, and some featurettes. Overall, if you're a Japanese cinema fan, if you're a Fukusaka fan, make sure to check this one out. Sticking with another one from Radiance Films, we have The Cat from Dominic Graff. This one is very cool. This is like a nice twist on the like bank robbery hostage genre, where you have these two people robbing a bank, and they have one person on the outside that the police do not know about, kind of like keeping them ahead of every police action in like this like hostage negotiation. There's some good thrills. There's people sabotaging potential rescues. There some dark comedy in here. There's some sensuality. There's a lot of twists and turns. Overall, if you like a good like police standoff drama, this one is a lot of fun. This comes from a new HD transfer that was supervised by director Dominic Graff. It looks very nice and clear, and just no real complaints here. You get the original language track. Sounds great. You get some new special features, including select commentary track. You get some new interviews and some other featurettes. So if you love hostage tales, The Cat, super engaging, super thrilling. Quite liked it. And finally, I know this has been a pretty long one, I am ending with another television series. It is one that's very near and dear to my heart, and all of its flaws and its triumphs. This is a universal release of House, the complete series. This is all 8 seasons of the series, thankfully given each of their own cases, all in one set on Blu-ray. I have owned the 6, 7, and 8 on Blu-ray previously. You may be able to see that here. I have the my Blu-rays there, but I now own them, all of the seasons on Blu-ray, because I previously just had the DVDs of the first 5 seasons. And I'll show those off really quickly. I think most people probably know this. This is Hugh Laurie as a pill-popping doctor who is just will say anything and everything, the most outrageous stuff, and he has a team of doctors that where they kind of try to diagnose what is going on with like the patients that come in with the most wild symptoms, and they have to kind of like try to track down what is wrong with them. And it's always a good time because of like he's such like a you can't say that house type of show. Like he's saying all kinds of inappropriate stuff, but it's fun. If you're easily offended, I've seen a lot of people try to like cancel House in recent years. Like the show has been off the air for years, but they still bring him up in like how wild this show was. But I loved it. I love Hugh Laurie. I love all the doctors that passed through his unit, and just really good series with some good character work going on throughout of just like his addiction and everything. It goes to some there are some plot lines that I do not love as much as others, but overall no real complaints. It's just one that I've always enjoyed watching, and then once my wife loves this even more than I do, so I always enjoy watching this with her as well. And it was great to watch this on Blu-ray for the earlier seasons, because we were actually in the middle of a rewatch. So I'm glad we were able to transition over from DVD to Blu-ray. But there is one jarring thing that I want to mention. For longtime fans, the first 5 seasons on this, since they were never released on Blu-ray domestically before, they are new to Blu-ray, but they also do not have the original Massive Attack theme song, which is such a crucial part of this series for, I know, many, including myself. It sets the tone perfectly. So not having that opening theme song for those first 5 seasons is a huge setback. I will live with it to have the trade-off for HD video quality, and this does have DTS 5.1 lossless sound, but not having the original opening theme is kind of a bummer. It does have all the special features. In terms of video quality, they all look very nice. These appear to be the same disc from the 6 through 8 sets as previously released, which they have like an older codec, but overall they still hold up pretty well. I obviously have not watched all 8 seasons over the last couple of weeks, but I have sampled every season pretty extensively. There are 39 discs with 177 episodes. I am only human, but everything that I've sampled does look very nice, and it holds up very well. I'm glad to have the series on Blu-ray. So if you have been waiting like me for this, while it's not a dream set, it is close to it. It does a really nice job. So House, the complete series, worth checking out if you're a fan of the show, which I definitely am. So thank you for sticking with me. This was a long one. I hope you found something that you enjoyed in here. If you did, leave a comment. Let me know what you're interested in checking out. Share this with anyone you think might enjoy it as well. I do this every week. I'll be back again with another exciting slate of titles next week. Just make sure you're subscribed to Geek Vibes Nation's YouTube channel. Just like this video. Do all the things that will help support me if you like the video. I really appreciate all the support I get every week. Thank you so much for watching. As I mentioned, I will be back again next week, but until then, enjoy these movies.